Wall Street Journal dropped a bombshell about the Bilt card. The main idea being that Wells Fargo made a bet by working with them, and it's costing them. So much so that they might not renew the contract, leaving Bilt without a bank partner. At the same time, we are seeing pushback from Encore, the CEO of the company. Today we'll look at everything from both sides of the table, some levers Bilt can pull to address this, and what Sebby would do. Big favor, give this a thumbs up to help with the algorithm, that way other people can see this, and if you know anyone else that might benefit, then share this with them. Okay, so what's the backstory? In 2022, Bilt launched with a simple premise, to help you earn points on rent payments without the transaction fee. Using credit cards to earn points for rent wasn't really a new thing with options like RadPad, but those ones did charge 2.99%. The case for us as credit card users is that even with the fee, it could help with minimum spends that would otherwise be unobtainable. I'll happily pay 3% to get 30% return on spend for the intro bonus. For other people, it was airline elite status or hitting 15K spend requirements for certain cards to get free night rewards. RadPad did originally shut down in 2016 and restarted a year later, and then shut down again in 2021. So personally, I was a bit bearish on the space when I first heard about it. This brings us to Bilt. Encore founded the company in 2019, and they needed a bank partner for credit cards. It started with Evolve Bank, but they wanted to go bigger. Also, the stack might feel a bit weird, but it is pretty common among fintechs. The idea being that legacy banks are not really good with user interface, user acquisition, and user experience. Case in point, this is the website of a $300 billion bank. Tell me if you know which one it is. In contrast, this is a $7 billion company, which gets you a lot more information. Even transactions by themselves look a lot nicer, and you get a lot more features to analyze where you're spending money. So yes, banks do benefit from new blood that might be better equipped to market to new and modern customers. Still though, Bilt pitched US Bank, Synchrony, and Chase, and all of them passed. Wells Fargo on the other hand needed a win and figured this would be a good way to attract younger customers and also a way to cross-sell mortgages. Even with other banks, it's pretty standard fare and normal to cross-sell, investments and mortgages being two big ones. This brings us to the Bilt card powered by Wells Fargo. No annual fee, 1x back on rent, 2x on travel, and 3x on dining. All you need to do is use the card 5 times each statement period. To be fair, they also had some pretty heavyweight investors like MasterCard and Blackstone. Since then, their valuation has ballooned from $350 million in 2021 to $3.1 billion in 2024. Users are happy to sign up because it feels like a no-brainer. Bilt is growing pretty fast and getting a lot of customers. But what about Wells Fargo? Wells Fargo is losing as much as $10 million every month on the program, and a lot of it from savvy customers. There is a counter argument for this, but I want to get through all the issues first. The goal of cross-selling is falling flat because Wells is pulling back from mortgage lending. With all of this, few projections they had for the Bilt card are holding. They assumed that 65% of spend would be non-rent when it's closer to 35%. Another one is interest payments. They projected that 50 to 75% of charges to the card would be carried month to month and would be generating interest. In reality, it's more so 15 to 25%. In fact, most customers pay off their rent within a few days of charging it to their card. And it makes sense. It's pretty much an easy way to get extra points with minimal to no risk. Beyond that is the fact that there are fees for this flow of money. Landlords are not the ones paying it. Users are also not paying it, but Wells Fargo is eating the fees. So they're paying Bilt a fee of 0.8% for each of the rent transactions. We'll hear from Encore later on, but the card is only a piece of their entire business. Back to the card though, for other transactions like dining, Wells splits the interchange fee with Bilt. On top of that, Wells Fargo does pay Bilt for new card accounts issued. I would be curious if that's why we don't see any significant intro bonuses on Bilt cards. Wells is telling Bilt that their current card members' behavior isn't profitable and that they either need to start carrying balances or use the card more for everyday purchases. Or I guess renegotiate the contract to make the economics work. So apparently these financial losses have triggered that renegotiation, with Wells Fargo telling Bilt that they don't intend to renew the contract, which is scheduled to end in 2029 unless the economics change in their favor. So first off, that is 5 years away, which is a ton of time. But second off, if you are someone who only has a few cards, if you don't have a lot of them, I would probably diversify and add additional no annual fee cards. 3 of my favorites are the Chase Freedom Unlimited, Capital One Saver One, and the Citi Custom Cash. All of them are great choices and tend to have pretty good intro bonuses. For example, for the Saver One, you're getting 200 after spending 500 in the first 3 months, and this is a no annual fee card. In contrast, Bilt doesn't have a public offer, and you would need to spend a lot more to get the same amount of points from your rent. To get 200 in value from 1x in rent, you would need to spend $20,000 on rent. Even if you are paying New York rent, that's about $5K, and that's still 4 months of rent to get the same $200 in value. Great if you're a high spender, but less ideal if you're a new grad, if you live at home, or if you live in a lower cost of living area. And I don't hate the Bilt card, but I think for a lot of normal people, you're probably better off going for intro bonuses and getting additional cards. On that note, if you want to learn more about cards and support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksebby.com, and also down below in the description box. As always, make sure the links are competitive, that the cards make sense for you. Otherwise, it is a huge way to support the channel. So thank you guys in advance. Okay, so with all of that said, what's the bull case for the card? Wells Fargo did mention that they want to continue working with Bilt, but to make sure that it's a win for both sides. Also, the fact that it does take multiple years for the initial launch of a card to pay off. In fact, we saw that with the Chase Sapphire Reserve. This card costed JPMorgan Chase $200 to $300 million in Q4 of 2016 alone. If you run a business, you know that sometimes you need to spend money to make money. To that point, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan, was fine with this. In fact, he wished it cost them more money. One of his insights is that Wall Street analysts look at marketing costs over 12 months, but the benefits and income from the marketing is over 7 years. So even though they spent $200 million on marketing, they're expecting a good return. You can lose money in the short term if it generates long-term profits. Even though Wells might be losing $10 million a month, it's the cost of doing business, and they're betting on a business unit. If anything, this is pretty standard, and we also see it across other sectors. So for example, Google spends $45.4 billion on R&D every year. Sometimes you get self-driving cars that are better than most Uber drivers. Other times you get nothing. In addition, Bilt is saying that the Wall Street Journal's reporting isn't a fair representation of the situation. I did end up reaching out to Encore for comment on the story, and he responded. Also weirdly impressed because it was a Sunday, and he could have easily pushed it off or ignored it. Is Wells Fargo dropping Bilt as a customer, and are they not happy? His answer is that Wells Fargo has no decision about exiting Bilt, and they've been excited about the early traction and all the new customers that they're acquiring. Bilt does have a contract through 2029, so nothing is happening to the card. Can you talk more about the losses for Wells Fargo? What's going on there? The Wall Street Journal was very misleading about the description of the losses. These are just acquisition costs that the bank pays. It takes time for the balances and revenue to build, whereas acquisition cost is all upfront. That's why all cards have losses for the first few years. And I buy this because the bread and butter of the Bilt card is young professionals in major cities. Think New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, and San Francisco. I think there's this misguided belief that if you're renting, then you must be poor. A lot of these people that are renting in these cities often are dual income and make good money. And especially so if you're in tech or the front office or buy-side side of finance. It's not that they don't want to buy a home, but the amount they need to save to get there is a lot higher. When they want to settle down and have kids, they will buy something, but the timeline is pushed a bit. In fact, Encore mentions the same comparison to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. The Chase Sapphire Reserve spent billions in the first couple of years acquiring cardholders. This partnership has been far more cost-effective in acquiring equally as valuable, affluent millennials to Wells Fargo. 70% of cardholders are new to Wells Fargo, average age of 31, and average FICO of 760 plus. It also helps that they don't have a public intro bonus. So even if you were to take the 100-point bonus on the Chase Sapphire Reserve worth $1,500, and you bring that to Wells, in order to acquire 1 million cardholders, that would cost them $1.5 billion. The idea of Wells Fargo being unhappy with the current economic model is just false. Okay, but what if the card gets discontinued? Bilt is a much bigger platform than just their co-branded card. Less than 15% of their members have a Bilt co-branded card, and you could use any VMA to earn Bilt points on rent payments and neighborhood spend. And in fact, that's the majority of their business model. They also apparently do a lot of stuff on the back end. They run payments for residential buildings, have a loyalty network that helps drive spend to local merchants, and you earn rewards and benefits at these merchants through Bilt regardless of the card you use. Taking all of this information and digesting it, we're seeing two different sides. On the reporting end, it's that Wells Fargo wants Bilt customers to either carry a balance or use their cards for everyday spend. Bilt's argument is that Wells Fargo is getting a sweetheart deal, especially if you compare it to Chase. With that said, I think there are 8 levers that Bilt can pull to account for this and to appease Wells Fargo. Note that this is just what I think as Sebastian. I have no inside information on what's going on or what will happen, if anything at all. The first lever is that Wells Fargo stops paying Bilt $200 per customer. If there's issues with short-term profitability, maybe pay less, maybe $100, or tie it with some other metric in the future. Different customers have different economic value, and you want to account for that. Maybe price them all differently. Number 2 is to lower the interchange split. Right now, it sounds like 50-50 for everything that's non-rent, so dining and travel. Maybe they can make it 40-60 or 30-70. Number 3, Wells Fargo paying Bilt less for rent payments. As long as it's free for cardholders and also landlords, then that's still fine. Number 4, make people carry a balance. This one's just for fun and kind of a joke, but even if Wells Fargo wanted people to do this, I don't think there's any practical way. Also, I feel like everyone would be canceled across the board. Number 5, add an annual fee. I don't think this would be a good idea because it would affect acquisition and also piss off people that already signed up. You want it to feel like a no-brainer, and having it as no annual fee makes it easy. If they do need to do something here, maybe it's 0.5x for no annual fee card and 1x for the annual fee one. You still have a no annual fee rent option, but it's just lower. Number 6 is to increase the minimum transaction side for the 5 minimum swipes. Even though it is relatively straightforward and simple, a lot of users are looking for ways to automate it or not use it as intended. For example, back in the day, people would do Amazon reloads for 50 cents, but now the minimum is $5. Other people will buy pasta one at a time for 50 cents. And yes, you can order it by itself if you have Prime, and it gets here pretty fast. Since you have Prime, there's no shipping and handling, and yeah, just 50 cents. Unsurprisingly, this and a lot of what's going on isn't really ideal for Wells Fargo. The easy solution is a higher minimum, the question being how much it would be. If you have it at a fixed amount, these are going to scare away the low-cost renters, and arguably the ones that don't cost you as much anyways. So for example, $1,000 in purchases per month on the card. On the other hand, if you have it as a percentage, it would scare the high-cost renters, because if you have 50% of a rent payment on non-rent, if you do, let's say, $5,000 on rent, $2,500 is a lot of money. I know that probably sounds absurd, but it's the fact that you probably have other cards that earn at a better rate. Number 7 is having more swipes. So instead of 5 times per month, what if it was that, but also at least once per week? Or maybe something like 30 swipes per month, which sounds absurd, but it is part of some other cards that have already existed and do pretty well. Number 8 would be to add an annual fee and other credits. As much as people hate the coupon book, a lot of other cards do it, and it helps them do really well. It means more people sign up because people like it, and the economics are better. Bilt is primarily a city person card anyways, so they probably wouldn't mind as much. Find a bunch of credits, ideally low or no cost ones, and charge the fee and cover the cost and kick back some of that to Wells. Okay, so with all of that said, what would Sebby do? I'd probably do number 3, where Wells Fargo pays Bilt less for rent payments, or number 7, just requiring more swipes. The argument for number 3 is that Bilt is running it anyways, and they could probably find operational improvements. Also probably helpful with AI getting better. Number 7, more swipes is annoying, but I feel like for smart people, you're going to automate it, and for everyone else, they're going to use the card more, so it kind of works out. Of all the consumer ones, I feel like that's the easiest, and also the least cancelable. I think stuff like raising the annual fee, even if you do add credits, or having minimum spend requirements every month, is just too abrasive. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, asksebby.com, and also down below in the description box. If you've made it to this point, leave spaghetti emoji or pasta emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, what are your thoughts on the situation? Number 2, how do you think all of this will end? Also, number 3, if you were Bilt, which of these levers would you pull? Which one do you think would work the best? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favor, thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time.